Hello, I'm Neil Quigley and welcome to the latest episode of my blogcast. Hope you're good. It was a while, it seems, ago now, but I had a really good end of May bank holiday weekend. There was lots going on. On the Friday, it was my girlfriend's mum's birthday, so she had a bit of a party for her at her house. I got there a little bit later than everyone else. It was a fantastic weekend weather-wise, so they were all in the back garden when I got there. There was champagne flowing. There was a couple of food options, including a chili and a curry, all of which were gluten-free, so I could enjoy them. And I did. I just sat myself down in the sunshine, got chatting to everybody. My champagne glass seemed to magically refill itself through most of the evening, thanks to my girlfriend being very attentive as I was chatting and drinking. Had a brilliant night. We had some of my other half's family round, and their next door neighbours were round as well, who were good fun. The son from next door has basically taught himself several magic card tricks online, and he's really good. He's very good at it. So he was doing those at the table, and we were just chatting and laughing. And before we knew it, because it was so warm and so nice, it was about 11:30, still sat there in short sleeves, just chatting away. It was at that point we thought we better bring things to a close. The next day, our friends were down from North Wales. They arrived in the afternoon. They were staying at a hotel very near Linda's. It was, as ever, great to see them, and I was looking forward to them coming down. The birthday celebrations for Linda's mum continued as we'd booked ourselves dinner in a nice restaurant about 5-minute walk from her house, and our friends were going to join us. We managed to get drinks in another restaurant just down the road. It was absolutely packed because of the weather, but we were a little bit sneaky, I suppose you could say. We'd agreed to meet the next door neighbours from the party. They had a table booked at this other restaurant, and more people were joining them later. So we joined them at their table for drinks before we headed off to our reservation, and it almost worked perfectly because as we were leaving, the people who were having dinner with them were turning up. So it all worked fine. We had a great dinner at a place called Ronav's, which is a Mediterranean-style restaurant we go to quite a lot. They have a really good menu, and as the only thing generally on there in most of the dishes that contains gluten is the bread they serve with it, they can make most of the dishes gluten-free, so I have plenty of options. We had a lovely meal there, and I got possibly one of my favourite desserts. They do a gluten-free Basque-style cheesecake which comes covered in chocolate sauce. It is so good. I convinced my mate Steve to have one, and I'm pleased to say he was not disappointed either. So we had a good time in there. They have some live music in there on a Friday and Saturday night, and it's always packed. We've also been there just for coffee, just for drinks, and they do a really good breakfast and lunch menu as well. In fact, we could probably eat there for all three of our meals in one day and still be perfectly happy. After the meal had finished, we ate relatively early, so we followed the same plan as the night before and headed back to Linda's, out in the garden, few drinks and chatted away till gone 11. Thankfully, the weather all over that Maybank holiday weekend was amazing. The main reason our friends had come down for the weekend is for her birthday. They had bought their daughter a trip to the Pixar immersive thing in Wembley. Unfortunately, when they booked it ages ago, they hadn't realised that it was the same day as the League One playoff final at Wembley. Linda and I went to Wembley with them. As you can imagine, it was very busy on the train to get there due to the football, and it was quite busy trying to get in and around Wembley. The first thing we did was work out where they were actually going. It looked very impressive from the outside. It was a massive building and had lots of pictures of all the Pixar characters all around it. When we knew where it was, we walked away a bit to get ourselves a drink as we'd got there a bit early. Then the three of them went off to enjoy their Pixar experience. By this point, it was getting nearer to kickoff for the football, so Wembley had thinned out quite a bit in the area. We decided to try and get some food. Now, I spent about 3 years working at Wembley Stadium as a tour guide there, had a fantastic time. I've lost count of how many times I sat on the England bench, walked out of the tunnel, or indeed walked up those famous steps to the Royal Box. Anyway, Wembley has developed quite a bit since the last time I was working round there, and I've never actually been to the Wembley Box Park, so I thought I would give it a go. I did see online somewhere that apparently they offered a few gluten-free options, and as we were having our drinks prior to our friends going off to see the Pixar immersive experience, I did a bit of research and it looked like I could get a gluten-free option or two in there. The problem we thought we might have is it did seem online that there was a private members entry only thing for people attending the football, but by the time we got there that appeared to have ended, so they let us in. There was hardly anybody in there. It was basically just us and the police who were looking after the football event on their breaks, getting some food. I don't often, believe it or not, get the chance to have a burger out or feel comfortable having a gluten-free burger in lots of burger restaurants. I saw online that this particular place in Box Park at Wembley did a gluten-free burger. I checked the reviews and it all seemed like it was pretty safe. So after speaking to the guy behind the counter, I ordered one, and I must say it was one of the best burgers I have had for a while. It was their smoky bacon and cheeseburger, and I had it with some chips. Very good, exactly what I needed. Because I'd taken quite a bit of time faffing about, deciding what to eat, it wasn't long after Linda and I had finished our food that our friends had finished at the Pixar experience. It was the same day as the final Premier League games of the season. My team, Tottenham Hotspur, were playing at home against Everton in a very crucial must-win game. When I agreed to our friends coming down and said we'd meet up, I didn't check the fixtures, so didn't realise Tottenham were playing. As a season ticket holder, I knew I really wanted to go to the game. As it happened, I managed to get my mate Steve a ticket to sit next to me at the game, which just worked out perfectly. So once they met up with us, me and him shot off to the tube station to get across London and get to the Tottenham Stadium, while the rest of them did some shopping around Wembley for a bit, then headed back. Steve and I got to the ground. I took him into the bar where I go. I am an 1882 member, which means I get access to a slightly different, slightly smaller bar area. And because I've been a member of that section since the new stadium opened, my name is actually on the board outside at the entrance. So obviously I had to point that out to him on the way in. We got in, had a drink, met up with the rest of my mates there. Obviously, I was very nervous about the game. Tottenham needed at least a point from it to stay in the Premier League, and there was a concern we might not get it. I was quietly confident that we'd survive and was happy our fate was in our own hands. We took our seats about 15 minutes before kickoff to soak up the atmosphere. Steve is a Wrexham fan and has been to watch them many times, but this was the biggest stadium he'd ever been to. And often when I bring new people to the Spurs Stadium, because I've been going there now since 2019, it's so normal. It's just like walking through the front door of my house. I forget the people who haven't been before or haven't been to a stadium that size with that big a crowd around will find it quite amazing and different. So it's nice to see his reaction to that. The game was good, or good enough. The atmosphere was really good, and Spurs just about managed to get the job done. We won 1-0, which was enough to keep us in the Premier League. So we remain in the top division for next year, which is good news. I was in quite a good mood after the game, I'm not going to lie. So Steve and I and the rest of my friends from Spurs went back into the bar and had a few drinks. Then we got the train home to meet up with everybody else at Linda's. We were sat once again in the glorious weather in the back garden having a few drinks. Not only did Linda do us a barbecue, so we had some food when we got back. This proves what a good girlfriend she is. She put a very nice bottle of Rioja in the fridge for me, so it was nicely at room temperature by the time I came home from football to continue these celebrations, or just get the relief of the situation out of my system. Next morning, we actually went back to Ronav's and had some coffee with our friends before they headed off back to North Wales. In fact, because Linda and I were feeling a little bit lazy and because it was such a nice sunny day, we actually went back there after we'd waved our mates off and had lunch there in the sunshine. It rounded off nicely what was a really good weekend. I am a big fan of the warm weather. I absolutely love it. Can't get enough of the sunshine and the warmth as well. And I am quite odd in that I think I actually sleep better when it's a warm night. I know lots of people struggle to get any sleep when it's warm. I find it easier and better. So I have been a bit disappointed by the drop in temperatures and the recent rain. If I could, I do love England and the UK, but I will be honest, I would probably spend always the summer here, but if I could live somewhere else for 6 months during the winter where it continues to be hot and sunny, that would be perfectly fine with me. Last weekend, we went up to a place called Congleton to see some friends there. It's a lovely town, kind of halfway between Stoke-on-Trent and Manchester. The reason we went up, the couple we were seeing there are getting married in a year's time. Linda is the chief bridesmaid and the bride-to-be had booked an appointment to have an initial look at what sort of wedding dress she might like to have, what style. So they had an appointment to go and have a look what they had on offer in the bridal store in Congleton. We got to their place about midday, had a leisurely drive up. I think I might have mentioned this before, but we have very differing music and mostly podcast tastes. I am more a Radio 2, 60s, 70s, 80s man, and my other half very much history, R&B, dance music. Also, she favours a true crime podcast, and I favour either comedy podcasts or musical documentaries. We have managed to find some common ground. We found two Radio 4 comedies that we both like listening to. They are The Unbelievable Truth with David Mitchell and It's a Fair Cop with Alfie Moore. So luckily we had some episodes of those we hadn't heard, so that's what kept us entertained on that journey. When it came time for the appointment, we all walked into the centre of town. The ladies went off to look at the dresses, and me and the groom-to-be found ourselves a nice bar in the sunshine. Once again, the weather was still great. Even better, this bar had gluten-free beer. So you know what it's like when the weather's so good, you're just having a chat, having a drink, taking it easy. Anyway, somehow 3 bottles of beer later, the ladies arrived for their appointment in a good mood, happily. It seems like it went very positively. They were clearly happy and had a plan in place. They ordered a bottle of Prosecco, so we shared that. Then we moved on to another pub that had just reopened, which had a huge, lovely beer garden, so we managed to get a seat in there. Again, they had gluten-free beer in bottles, so that was great. Not always the case when you go to towns or villages outside of London. It can be a bit hit and miss on the gluten-free beer front, so I was quite pleased that they had some. From there, the plan was simply go back to our friend's house, order a pizza and have a few more drinks and just chat and catch up, which is exactly what we did. But then their next door neighbours returned from a party. They invited us all next door. We thought it would be rude not to. Another 3 hours later, we're walking back to our friend's house after a lot of talking, laughter and a really fun night. It did mean we ended up having a bit of a line the next day, and I was slightly tired and emotional and very grateful for the fantastic fry-up that they did us before we headed home. I have been making a lot more videos this year on various topics, from the Elvis film to a review of Dracula and various other films and plays I've seen. Also just some random stuff that has entered my mind. You can find all of my videos, if you're interested in checking them out, on my Instagram, which is at Neil Quigley TV. So if you fancy checking out those videos, have a look at my Instagram. I am at Neil Quigley TV. That is it for now. Thanks for listening. Look after yourselves and each other, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.